Hey guys, I was watching Black Panther and I wanted to talk about some of the things that make this movie one of the greatest African American films in American history. Now, this film does something that I've never saw any other black film do, or a film that includes African Americans. It depicts them as different, believing in different political ideologies. Now, normally in films, they depict black people as politically a monolith. There's no division. We're all anti-authority, and we're all basically left-wing. Now, in real life, this isn't true. Now, just for preference, I want to state that I am very left-wing, and that is my personal belief. But I'm not all black people, and I don't represent all black people, and that ideology definitely doesn't represent all black people. And that's something the film is great at depicting. In fact, most of the people in the film aren't even close to left-wing ideologies. Now, the first person I want to go over, because you have basically, the film is about three conflicting political ideologies. The ideology of T'Challa, who is our hero, Killmonger, who is our villain, and Nikita, which is basically the middle ground between the two. Now, it might be surprising to know, but both T'Challa and Killmonger have very right-wing ideologies. Since T'Challa is our hero, I'll go over his political beliefs first. Now, when you go over the history of Wakanda, it makes sense why T'Challa would be very right-wing in his political ideology. Sorry, I'm having trouble with that word today. Basically, Wakanda is a African kingdom that's never been enslaved. Their culture has always been the culture of their country. They never been enslaved by outsiders, and they have what is it? A monarchy. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name for a second. And T'Challa is the current ruling king of that country. Now, T'Challa himself is a very isolationist because he's a traditionalist, and traditionally Wakanda has been an isolated nation. Not only do they not want outsiders, they're afraid of the outsiders, and they don't like the outsiders' culture. And this is established in the beginning of the film when T'Challa is talking with Nikita, and she says you should open up the borders, and T'Challa basically says, you know, if we let those people in, they're going to destroy our culture. Now, in America, that's something only a right-wing person would say. A left-wing person would be, what is it, pro-diversity, while right-wing is more cultural, protect our culture. And it's ironic that T'Challa has the protect our culture ideology. But in real life, T'Challa isn't American, he's Wakandan. Of course he wants to protect his culture. He's at the top of his class. He likes his culture. He grew up in his culture. He's the dominant person in his culture. Everybody in his kingdom looks like him. Why would he want to share? Why would he want to adopt outside cultures? He likes his language that he speaks. He has fun in his kingdom. In his country, he is the white people of his country, which is why he likes his culture. He's also very isolationist, which I mentioned before. He just doesn't want outsiders. And this is our hero that's depicted that way, but he's never depicted as evil or malicious. He doesn't hate white people. He's just very fearful, not fearful, but very cautious of them ruining his country, which would happen if they let them in, because Wakanda is a fairly rich nation and very technologically advanced. If outside nations got access to their resource of vibranium, that would destroy the country, because they would basically start fighting wars over it, as Wakanda is the only place to get vibranium, and vibranium is very useful and a great deal of products, as we see in the film. Next, I want to go over Killmonger's philosophy and his political ideology. Killmonger basically has the same mindset of Jim Crow, except in reverse. Killmonger wants to create a class system or enslave white people, where you have a class system where there's black people on top and white people on bottom. He basically wants to reverse Jim Crow and enforce that all throughout the world, because the way he sees it is that's what's been done to the black people of America, and he says we should learn from the black people of, I mean, we should learn from the white people that did that in America, and we should take up their culture. Well, not their culture. We should use their methods and use it on them, which is a fair point. Killmonger is very American in his thinking and his political ideology. The thing I found interesting about Killmonger is I know a lot of black people personally that believe in that same ideology. When you ask them, should we enslave white people? The answer you'll get is, well, they did it to us. It's only fair that we do it to them. And this is the first film I saw that depicted a black person with that ideology. And when I look at it, I think that's a very realistic and ideology. And it's very understandable. It's not right. I'm not saying Killmonger is right. I'm saying I can understand where he's coming from. He grew up in a land where he was treated as a second-class citizen, and he had to adopt that culture. And when he adopted that culture, he adopted their beliefs, which is might is right, and if I'm the strongest, I have the right to enslave you. So he wants to just flip the system where he's on top and the white people are on bottom. Now, what I find very interesting is both these characters have conflicting political ideologies because of their birthplace, but both of them are very understandable from where they're coming from. You have T'Challa, who's lived in a land that's always been free and never enslaved, and is responsible for his people. Now, one thing that I thought was funny was when Killmonger is talking to T'Challa. I believe it's this scene right here, and he says to T'Challa, uh, "You should help the black people of the world." And he says, "Aren't you the king? I mean, didn't all life start in Africa?" And T'Challa replies with, "I'm not the king of all people." Now, a lot of people found that dismissive, but I find that perfectly logical. He isn't the king of all people. His job is to protect Wakanda, and he's doing his best to protect Wakanda, not the black people all over the world. Yes, it's a tragedy that the black people all over the world was enslaved, but those people aren't his responsibility, and his responsibility is Wakanda. And he has a very real fear that if he exposes Wakanda to the world, that they will come and destroy Wakanda in order to get the vibranium. And as a king, that's a very real fear. And I can understand where he's coming from. But at the same time, Killmonger isn't wrong either. Killmonger says, hey, you have the power to take over the world and help black people everywhere and stop the oppression of black people. So I kind of get both points of them, and both points of them are not wrong, but their conflicting political ideologies are very interesting. And this is one of the only films where I saw two black people that have very conflicting political ideologies that aren't left wing. And then you get to Nikita's political ideology, and she basically says, hey, you know, we don't have to fear the world. Our culture is strong enough to survive that, and we can help the black people of the world everywhere. Which is true, but it's not exactly what Killmonger wants, because he wants to arm everybody and commit an uprising where they basically either kill or enslave or all the white people. But she instead wants to help everybody around the world through what I'm assuming is political means, and like taking in refugees and stuff like that, which is not exactly what T'Challa wants. But in the end, he does agree to take in refugees and basically use Wakandan's wealth to help black people around the world. And she's the only person in the film that is depicted with an explicit left-wing ideology that's similar to something that you would find to a black person in America's belief. But the reason I think it's this film is so great is because it depicts that differing. It doesn't depict all black people as a monolith. It depicts us as different because we all have different beliefs because we all come from different places. I have friends that are both left wing and right wing, and every time you see a movie, it only depicts us as a monolith, which you saying all black people are the same. I like it when black people are depicted as the villain and the hero because, that's how it is in real life. Not everybody has a straight left-wing ideology that's just against slavery. Another thing I found interesting is you never hear T'Challa bring up slavery, and that's interesting because why would you hear him bring up slavery? He lives in a free country. That's something that happens across on the other side of the continent, different parts of the world. It doesn't happen to his country, so it doesn't affect him that much. So when Killmonger is talking to him about freeing all people, he's like, hey, this is Wakanda, everybody's free here. While Killmonger continuously brings up the oppression and slavery of black people because he had to grow up under that system. So I just thought it was really interesting, and it was one of the things that made the film great. And this is the difference when you have a black person writing a film, because you had a black person writing and a black person directing, they understood that not all black people are the same and that we do believe in different things. So you get this contrast of beliefs where neither person is exactly wrong, but they have different political beliefs. Hey guys, in my spare time I also make video games. If you want to check out anything I've made, you can check it out in the description down below. There will also be links on the screen and a list of my video games that you can click on. I could really use your support, and if you're interested, check out the description down below. Thank you for watching.